Morgan.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks.
The recorder is going, so FYI.
Okay.
Anything
so
you...
Wearing.
Oh, no, you can swear. Absolutely, you can swear. But, you know...
Incriminating them.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. No, and certainly nothing disparaging about, I don't know... Donald Trump. No. Again, that's two for two here. No, by all means. I'm thinking of changing this podcast, actually, to one that swears up at Donald Trump. I'm talking about singing to the choir.
Be alone.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'd be singing, and I think I'd be singing to the choir here. It's funny. I was at Brick Arts Media. Are you familiar with that place? It's like it's an arts organization in downtown Brooklyn. One of the things they run is that they're most known for is Celebrate Brooklyn, an outdoor music series in Prospect Park at the band shell. But they do they have a whole studio and resources and Anyway, I was in there about 6-7 months ago because I did a bunch of TV things for them, and I was there early, and I was getting a coffee in their little cafe, and I worked at Sony I worked at Sony Music for years, so I amassed quite a bit of Yo-Yo Ma. See, we come to the point. Music, I guess in my head I just had this Yo-Yo Ma from 15 years ago, and I'm standing there, and there's Yo-Yo Ma. I didn't 100% know it was him, though. I was like, I think it could be him, but it's not him. Anyway, it was, and I didn't say anything about it. But he was just being kibitzey and funny and kind of nerdy, and I thought it was charming.
Exactly. No, he's very charming that way and very unassuming. Yeah, I think Yo-Yo said that when he travels through an airport carrying a cello, he's Yo-Yo Ma. But when he travels to an airport with
he's what?
A Chinese tourist.
Oh, a Chinese tourist. Yeah.
He kind of becomes invisible.
Is he suggesting that all Chinese people look alike? No, that would be terrible. That would make no sense.
Actually, the thing I feel bad for is Chinese cellists who aren't Yo-Yo, who have probably been mistaken for him their entire life.
That was probably the origin of that stereotype. Yeah. All Chinese cellists look alike. Yeah,
but look like Yo-Yo Ma.
Yeah. Anyway, he is charming, and he comes across just as charmingly in your film, The Music of Strangers, I think it's called.
Yes.
That's the short version.
That's fine.
Is there an imperative for you while you're on this trajectory of making more popular documentaries to become more prolific? Because it seems like you're on a bit of a tear. I think it was maybe 3 summers ago, or 3 falls ago, you came out with 20 Feet from Stardom, right?
3 summers ago.
Which I think won the Oscar. But would you know about that?
I would. I have evidence on my mantle. So.
Congratulations. I don't think I got a chance to tell you that.
No, it's fine. So,
and then there's, of course, The Best of Enemies, which came out subsequently, and now within 3 years you have the Yo-Yo Ma documentary about his putting together this ensemble of international musicians, and it must have taken quite a bit of time. So I'm just wondering if you feel like you have to ride the momentum of this recent chapter of success.
Well, the reality of it is that I started both Best of Enemies and Music of Strangers before I finished 20 Feet. So, it's something very typical in being an independent filmmaker. You're always working on 5 films at once. And the reality of it was the success of 20 Feet allowed me to raise enough money to finish all the other films I was working on.
Right.
So that's why suddenly there was, a bunch of stuff coming out, because I was able to clean off the shelves.
That makes a lot of sense.
That being said, the shelves are bare now. So, I don't have any more half-finished documentaries that are going to come out next year. So I did my house cleaning, and I got to finish everything I was working on. And now I'm kind of starting to look ahead and say, what do I want to do next?
That sort of seems like it's both exciting but also a little bit unnerving, maybe. But to get to the current film, which I think is it opening today?
Yeah, opens today.
And you gave me all this time? We're supposed to be on for an hour and a half.
Nothing to do.
Okay, we're supposed to be on for an hour and a half. You know that, right? Breathe easy now. No, actually, I won't take a lot.
I don't hear myself that long.
But you did, and then thank you again also for you did that Montclair Film Festival live podcast with me too, which against all technical odds came off quite well. I think you were at in Toronto.
Exactly. No, and you're part of the Montclair Mafia.
Me?
I don't know. Are you?
No.
Where are you based?
No, I'm in New York. I'm in the city. That was me trying to, and I'll be very brief about it. But I'm trying to create, I guess, some sort of way of getting into doing what I do with certain festivals. And so I approached, Tom Hall, who I'm friendly with, and that was a nice one. And I did one with Rooftop, and I've since now, I'm getting a little bit of things going. So, I remember, again, as I said at the beginning of our conversation, that I was working at Sony Music, which Sony Classical was one of course, our labels.
Yeah.
And my position wasn't at the label, but I would get all the, a lot of his music as well as many other artists, of course. But I saw that he started to do these compilations, Appalachian Waltz, these different Appalachian albums, and then he moved on to the Silk Road projects because he started this quite a while ago, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the kind of the trajectory we talk about in the movie, he starts, he goes to Botswana and kind of has this epiphany about wanting to try different things. And right after that, he does a Bobby McFerrin, but then he does Astor Piazzolla, Ennio Morricone, and starts Silk Road and, the Goat Rodeo. So, I mean, this is all kind of manifestations of a similar impulse of his, which is try and figure out what he can do with music that's both about understanding the world and trying to change the world for the better.
But isn't it also, and this is maybe something you felt since you won the Oscar, that all of a sudden you realize, there's a world of choices that is opening up to me. In other words, Yo-Yo Ma being one of the most recognizably talented and successful musicians worldwide. I don't have to be boxed into doing specific concertos and a certain type of genre of music. I actually could step out and do whatever I want to have, and I've never really taken advantage of it.
But I don't actually think that's the impulse for him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he certainly had that freedom, but the thing is, there are a lot of very successful people in the classical music world who never leave the classical music world. And there were a lot of these collaborations and things he tried that I guarantee you the label and the managers did not think were a good business idea. I think that for him it was about experimenting, but he caught a lot of flack for it from people because he never turned his back on his core work and the work that he continues to do. Mm-hmm. But it's certainly, people kind of started to, and I've gone back and read plenty of the reviews of people saying, what's Yo-Yo up to now? He's kind of, flitting about playing with, musicians in strange costumes and everybody everywhere. And I don't think it was done for any other reason other than he was curious.
Understood.
He wanted to try something different.
It makes sense. And then he does, of course, because of what I was referring to before in terms of his stature, he does have all these options then to actually, it's much easier for somebody like him to, of course, immerse himself and not just like go to the next neighborhood over in Queens where, there's a Romanian, enclave, but he can actually go to Romania, or whatever the country is. And I mean,
he definitely spent some of his, capital, his,
right.
Popularity capital to
sure.
do things like this that people said, okay, if you want to do it, we'll do it. I mean, the amount of effort that went into this first Silk Road kind of gathering in 2000 was huge. It took 2 years of planning and, a lot of money and a lot of volunteers, and everybody basically trusted Yo-Yo.
Mm-hmm. Did you travel with him through the entire time?
I did. I mean, I started the film 5 years ago, so basically over the last 5 years, I followed what he's been doing and did, I went with him to, China and Turkey and Europe and around America to see him. I mean, there's something in the film where his son says that he doesn't just believe his job is what happens on on stage. He believes his job happens when he lands in a place and doesn't stop. And I can attest to the fact that being with Yo-Yo on the road, it doesn't matter if he's talking to the bellboy or the taxi driver or the president of that country. He's always kind of fully engaged.
That's exactly right. It was an interesting observation, which really did belong in the film. You know, it really kind of gave us a great insight into Yo-Yo Ma, more than just being, oh, here's this very friendly, warm guy. I mean, the way he comes across on screen can't be artificial. I mean, you know, he's and then to know that he's just so present, it says a lot, you know, about him.
No, it does. I mean, he was talking to me about it actually last week. We were talking about
the son or Yo-Yo Ma.
Yeah, I was talking to Yo-Yo last week about some of this. We were talking about fear, and he was saying that the best way, you know, he had some stage fright, and he used to throw up before he'd go on stage, and
really?
touring and anxiety, and he'd be critiqued, and he said basically his way of kind of coping with all this was to kind of instill in himself such an overwhelming amount of kind of passion and love. And he said love is the antidote to fear, you know, just bursting at the seams to kind of share what he was doing and believing in it so much that became the thing that finally, you know, freed him from fear. And it comes across. I mean, that takes a tremendous amount of energy to do it. And I'm actually, just from having spent a lot of time with him, always amazed that he has the energy he does, because it's hard to keep up with him.
Where do you think he gets that reserve? What is that?
God, I
does he doesn't party?
Oh, he can party. I remember, in fact, finishing our shoot in Turkey, and at the last night we went to a restaurant on rooftop in Istanbul. And at the end of the night, everybody had left except for a PA and you know, a waiter and Yo-Yo and a couple of us sitting around a hookah, you know, with a bottle of wine. He didn't want to go home. You know, people were trying to drag him out. He was going to keep going. So
when he does do these projects and he steps out of the classical, maybe you don't know, but what is the response of the classical music community? Is there a judgment against such things? I don't know. You know, of course, the assumption is that the classical community is a bit snobbish about other types of music, and that classical music really is the only music worth, you know.
Sure. I mean, my sense of it is that in the early days, there was a lot more
resistance. Yeah.
Resistance and snobbishness about what he was doing, and now it's kind of changed into acceptance.
Yeah.
Or maybe even approval.
Yeah. You know, let's face it. I say this a little bit as a devil's advocate because I know that when I was there, Sony Classical, I keep going, I'm sorry, there was like the jazz label shut down. Sony Classical was always hanging on by, you know, however many threads. Peter, what the heck's his last name again? Peter, who he was the president of the label. He went over to Carnegie Hall, and it was just, it's always been, there's always been a death knell around the corner for the classical music recording industry.
Well, and this is actually, you know, one of the points of the movie. It's funny because these kind of guardians of purity and tradition exist in every culture. It's not just that they exist in classical music, but they exist in, you know, Persian culture and Chinese culture.
Yeah.
There are people, critics in those countries saying, you know, to all the other musicians in the Silk Road, you know, what are you doing playing with Western musicians? Or what are you doing, you know, with Wuman, you know, playing with Philip Glass and the Kronos Quartet? And, you know, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. But I think the kind of one of the big arguments of the film is that tradition is not just doing something and repeating it as redundantly as possible forever. That's not the point of tradition. The point of, you know, tradition comes from innovation, and it succeeds and continues to thrive through innovation. And I think one of the great things about this metaphor of the Silk Road is this idea that things that seem so pure, in fact, have been influenced by other cultures going back millennia. So there's actually kind of a fallacy of purity going on. And you can talk about the, you know, pure Chinese instruments or pure Persian instruments or Western instruments. And I guarantee you there are connections between why a pipa and a lute are connected, or a sitar and a guitar are connected, or a kamache and a violin are connected. These things that seem pure to certain cultures are already interconnected to other cultures.
Well, there's some wonderful examples and demonstrations of the music that from the Silk Road project that are in the film, which really are gorgeous, and was really a lovely little gift. Turn up the music and really enjoy watching these guys play. Yeah.
Thanks. I mean, it was amazing for me to be able to just.
I'm sure it was.
To document it. I learned so much making this film.
Oh yeah, I imagine you must have. Yeah. Peter Gelb was the former president of Sony Classical. I just every time I hear his name, I always hear it in the voice of Mel Brooks. And you're laughing, but there is a reason for that.
Why they grew up in the same neighborhood?
Very possibly, but that's not why. I was working there at Sony, and one day there was an old short man facing the elevator banks, and he was sort of scratching his head, body language wise, and he turned around, and he looked at me, and he goes, "That's Peter Gelb. What floor is he on?" And of course, it was Mel Brooks, and because they were producing his the soundtrack or the original Broadway cast album for the producers, So I was like, here, let me carry you upstairs. Let me take you. Oh, I got off at the wrong floor. I'm sorry. It's the other. No, I was just, and it was on two occasions, and I was also just too starstruck. It was an occasion where I was just too starstruck. Maybe a little bit like with Yo-Yo Ma. Mel
Brooks is a very good one.
That is a good one. All right. Well, thank you. The music is. Give me the full title. The Music of Strangers, Yo-Yo Ma, and the Silk Road Project. What is it called?
Music of Strangers, Yo-Yo Ma, and the Silk Road Ensemble.
Okay, so it's the name of the film is Music of Strangers, Yo-Yo Ma, and the Silk Road Ensemble. It's opening today in New York anyway, on June 10th, which might be a little bit, maybe that was yesterday or the day before when I finally get this up. I apologize that I missed our appointment earlier this week. And
No problem.
I know
how it goes.
Yeah, I was biting off a lot, and I've been working in Brooklyn. Never mind. And where else is it opening today? How many cities?
In the next couple weeks, it's opening all over.
Makes sense.
All major cities.
Gotcha. Well, Morgan, let's do it again next time. It's great.
Sounds great.
I always love talking to you.
You as well.
Thanks.
Take care now.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.